you guys for coming this evening. Obviously, you guys know what you come to. This is an artist talk for the exhibition that we have here between form and function. These three artists here on the left, and then Susan's work, Color Forms, which is in the East Gallery back over here, which we'll have some time to look at later. Is anybody here not familiar with the artwork? Is this anybody's first time here?
What?
Okay, so you guys are familiar. Awesome. All right, well, welcome back. We have the pleasure of being able to ask the artists that have put together and curated these shows questions about the ideas and the impetus behind this work itself, which is great. Maybe you had a chance, if you came to the opening, to kind of chat one-on-one, but it can be difficult to sit down and get answers from people about why they made the things they made, what are the ideas and the inspirations behind these things. And we have the luxury of being able to do that tonight. So what we're going to do is about 45 minutes of kind of a Q&A back and forth. I'll ask a few questions. And then we'll move on to a Q&A between you and the artists. And then after that, we'll have a little bit of time to get up and look around and look at the work, kind of, let some of the ideas of what they've shared about their own work settle so that you can take new eyes to it and also ask them as well. I'm Mark. I'm the education director here. We haven't met before. And I want to go ahead and introduce all of our artists. So, Susan Curry, who's here, is a locally based multidisciplinary artist whose show Color Forms in the East Gallery right now. It's comprised of paintings, but she's also a photographer, author of several books, yoga and meditation practitioner, and on the board of the directors of the Artists of Palm Beaches. Terre Rybovich is a third-generation South Florida native, was interested in that, and works and advocates for artists in the arts around this region. She uses charcoal and pastel to create detailed and ethereal images on paper. Hers is the work that you can see behind glass. If it's behind glass, it's Terry's, and in the wooden frames. She also sits on the executive board of Collaborative. I have a hard time saying that. Is that how you say it? Okay. Which is an arts nonprofit based down in Miami. You live in Homestead, right?
Yes.
Down there? Okay. She's come quite a way to that. Renée Rey is a painter based in Delray. She creates the large surreal compositions here, like the one behind us. The unframed kind of loose canvas pieces, if you look around, well, these are on a frame, but some of them are not. Those are Renée's pieces. She's a local artist and educator and lecturer. Has lectured at colleges around the region, and she's a current resident at Arch Warehouse, if you guys are familiar with it, in Delray, where she teaches as well. And last but not least, Heather Couch is a ceramic artist and educator focusing primarily on sculptures and installation projects. As you guys can see here, these are Heather's, these interesting structures that she's created. We're going to talk about that. She's exhibited acclaimed ceramic work nationally and internationally, served on the Arizona State University Board of Ceramics Research. She's the head professor of ceramics at Palm Beach Atlantic University down the street, and just as importantly, one of our instructors here in ceramics in our ceramics studio. So, to get things kind of started off, I wanted to start with you, Terry, and ask about this show that you guys, the three of you, have put together here. Very different bodies of work, but it works together beautifully. There's not a sharp contrast in a negative way between any of the pieces when you walk in. It's very cohesive. And so I wanted to ask you about what kind of brings the three of you together and what you see as the aspects of this show that really make it work.
We have some history. 5 years ago, Florida Gulf Coast University Gallery asked us to present a show, the three of us plus Marina Font. And we were selected because all of us work with our bodies and our art. And it was a great show that no one ever saw because of COVID. And so I can't tell you how much it means to actually have the show recreated, unfortunately minus Marina, who's busy in Europe. But to be able to have this show happen and have people come and see it, I mean, that's about as good as it gets. I'm very proud of the show.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I didn't realize that the rest of you guys work with your bodies as well, and the work. If you look at Terry's work, you can see like the human forms trace. It's very clear. But do you guys mind sharing as well the ways in which you incorporate that into your own work?
Okay. Well, as you can see, I paint really large. I had an instructor when I first started painting, and he said, Renee, you have a lot of energy. You need to paint big. And at that time, they were about 24 inches by 36, and I thought that was big. So now I'm up to, my largest is about 6 feet by 10 feet. So I'm very physical with my work, and that's how I use my body, and I'm very intuitive. So up and down the ladder, you know, lots of movement, and I certainly use the image of the human figure, whether it's a male, female, and many times androgynous, to connect us all. That's the idea of that. So.
Yeah, I'm also very physical with my work. I think that's something that the curator had noticed. Terry also is like laying her physical body on the paper to create those imprints. I'm doing it more with a lot of thumbprints and squeezing with my hands, creating the pieces, leaving the imprint of my body on almost all the ceramic pieces that I made. And then I can relate to the up and down on the ladder, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to that actually. So Heather spent, I think, about 2 full days constructing these things on a ladder, on a large lift that we had actually for really kind of compelling. So Renee, I want to ask you about your work. So we took a walk through the gallery the other day, and I was trying to understand, because you have these kind of like symbolic aspects, obviously, in your work. There's, you know, mountains, there's fish, there's mirrored clouds, things like that I can look at and see the intentionality behind, but I would have no idea what that intentionality was without asking you. So I was wondering if you would share a little bit about what these kind of, again, just to remind you guys, Renee's pieces are the ones on loose canvas, so if you look like behind you here, this kind of red rock area, this piece right here, this triptych, the pink piece right there. So you made these dreamlike compositions with these very specific, obviously discernible figures, your fish, your periodic table. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those elements, where they came from, and how you see them all tying together in your pieces?
Sure. So, well, I beat to my own drum, and I come up with these worlds where I would like to live in. And it first starts out with a structure. So I create the clouds. Those clouds formation, that's symmetrical. Imagery. And then I just surrender to intuition. So structure and surrender for me is really important. This body of work actually started when I was invited to a artist residency in Colorado Springs. And I had never been to Colorado before. The only stipulation about the residency was that it had to deal with the environment, and I had been doing work with nature, so that's why I was invited. So the first day we went to Garden of the Gods. Has anybody here been to Colorado Springs Garden of the Gods? Okay. Well, it is this really amazing primordial kind of these rock formations jutting out of the earth. And I just said, oh, now I know what to do and where my work is going to go. So I had already previously had wanted to use that structure of the clouds because I had done some photography work, played in Photoshop with that, but I wanted to paint it. So what happened was I make a lot of associations when I do my work. So in terms of the nature, in terms of science, and that's where the periodic table comes in, and I think about the elements and how everything that is created has those elements in them. And there was, in terms of the fish, and that's particular one, I keep pointing to this one because it's the first one of the series in 2016, and there was on site a beautiful koi fish pond that really inspired me. And my belief system is that I believe in a grand unity, that everyone and everything in creation is of equal importance. There's no hierarchy. We're all here because we are a gift and we have something to offer the world. And so that's why you see some of my animals, my fish, my other imagery that is not just on the ground, and sometimes hovering above humans, because I want to present that as my belief system.
The question that kind of prompted that, thank you for sharing that. I was walking around with Terry, like I told you guys, and I don't know if you've seen, if any of you, has anybody not taken a walk through the show already before? Okay, good. We're gonna have some time to do that afterwards. And it'll have a lot more context and interest to you after this. On the back side of this wall is a painting with a goat floating in midair. And I was like, Terry, what's up with this goat floating in midair? And then that's, you were talking about the hierarchy. Yeah, I'm sorry, Renee.
Yeah, and the ram.
Sorry?
It's a ram.
A ram, okay. Okay, a large Colorado goat. There's a ram floating in midair. And I was like, where did this thing come from? And so that kind of like spawned the conversation that led to all that. And I would have had no idea that that was like an underpinning of your work, of this kind of equality of all life, but it's super important to know and applies to some of the other work around here. Something that I found was interesting, and we were talking as well, was about and this is what I think kind of contributes to a sort of dreamlike perspective in your work. You've got literal different perspectives in there. For example, this one that most of you guys can see with the red rocks in the background, at first glance it looks like there's just a side view of like a cliff. If you look down in the bottom right, you can see there's an actual straight perspective of mountains on the horizon, like you're looking onto the same thing, but it's 15 miles away. Can you talk a little bit about the intention behind that and
Sure.
what you're trying to execute there?
Sure. So this was another idea that I was thinking about when I wanted to create this particular series, was playing with perception and playing with space. So in a two-dimensional painting, you can go left, right, up, and down and paint. But I wanted to try to create some depth and create where the imagery was floating in and out, even though it's two-dimensional. So that was that's why some of the imagery you can't see, some of it you can. It's a little fuzzy. Some of it's more formed. And then certainly with that idea of the perspective, drawing your eye in. And I also wanted people to be able to step into my work, to think about just, you can go into that place, and then you can leave this world and all the stresses behind, and for you just really feel good in this space, inside my painting.
Yeah, I think it worked. That was the thing that I found definitely the most kind of alluring, especially having visited a lot of places in the Southwest where there's that sense of just, you can see forever. It's not something that we really have here. Susan, you're one of the central pieces of the exhibition. We've got several of those, obviously, Heather's hanging structure, but it's one of the ones that I think is the most ambiguous. And we talked a little bit about it the other day. I've been talking to Renee and said that it looks to me like there was a raptor bird face in the middle, and it's kind of pointing off to the side. A couple of days later, he said that that's not the intention, that's not what it actually was. Which is why these questions matter, right, to understand the artist's kind of point of view. I was walking through here and somebody was walking through the gallery and they were like, oh, it's a bird face. I was like, I see this all the same thing that I do. So I was wondering if you would tell us a little bit about the story behind this piece, like you told me the other day, and how you feel as well about people looking at something that you intended and seeing something else, because I think that happens a decent amount with your work.
Sure. Okay. So this particular piece was actually created during COVID. It was for the first show that we were in together. So there was a lot, for me, I had a lot of anxiety during COVID. It really affected me a lot. And so the work is, in general, a little bit darker in mood than some of my other work. The other thing about it that isn't here now because I've moved, I was living on the west coast of Florida, is that there were branches that were around and attached to the canvases. And we were doing a lot of walking at that time, but of course being isolated from a lot of people. So even though I had painted nature, I felt this real need to touch it, to be more intimate with it. So I was grabbing these branches, large branches in the neighborhood. They barely fit in the back of my car. and then taking them out, and of course on hot days, sweating like crazy, I was washing them, bleaching them, washing them again, and getting them ready to be used on an interior. I didn't want any bugs or anything in them. But I needed that to be able to touch. I needed that intimacy with nature to help me, relieve me of that strong anxiety that I had. And so, having said that, the imagery itself certainly includes my clouds, but I was veering away from that symmetry. And then the people. The people goes back to that idea of the unity that I have. So they're androgynous. You can't tell if they're male or female, and they are entwined. And I felt that during COVID, that even though we were separate from each other, we still needed to be connected somehow. And so that was my way of dealing with all of that, the issues, the unknown, the scary time. Does that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. It does have a bit of an ominous nature to it, which I like personally. With kind of thunderheads over here, and then you also mentioned that it was important that people understand that it is a triptych. It's one piece altogether, rather than three separate pieces.
And you did ask me one other question. How do I respond? How do I feel about
people looking and seeing things that aren't there, at least by your intention?
Oh, I think that's great. I love I love sneaking up and behind people and listening to what they have to say about my work, especially when they don't know me, because I think it's fascinating. Because everybody brings their own experience to work, and that's to art, and that's, I feel, is the other half of the conversation. Because my work isn't just about me; it's about bringing it to you all, and then you responding to it, interacting with it. And I leave a lot of my work abstracted for that very reason. It's not realistic. It's not predictable. There's this unknown to it, and so people will see things just like we do with clouds. You go outside. Oh, I see a dog. I see a bear. I see this. I see that. Right? Somebody else can say, oh no, it looks like this. We do that. We want to organize. We want to see things from our own experience so we can connect. We naturally want to connect, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a lot about what we're doing here. You guys having this show together. You guys are doing what we're doing right now. Yeah. I wish we had more time for more questions that I've written down. I'm just going to that piece right there, which you can't see.
And I've talked about the idea of space already in this body of work, and but in terms of the idea of meditation, I have a meditation practice also, which has ramped up recently, and I think it has actually helped with my new series. So back in September, I started a new series of work. I've evolved this series. I still use the landscape, the abstracted landscape, as a vessel through which I explore my feelings about paint, my feelings about color. So instead of having this idea of a concept that I'm thinking about first, my new work is more of, it starts with the actual, what I'm feeling, and that meditation has really helped with that, opened up this idea of a different kind of space. And you'll be able to see it when you go into this middle gallery. That's the first of the series of the new work, and so there are areas that seem absent, so there's this idea of absence and presence. But in terms of space, the grid also creates a different kind of portal and spatial relationship with my work. And I'm still discovering what this is about. Some of that other newer work is in our Artist in Residence exhibition over at the Arts Warehouse, and that's through the 25th of October. But yeah, so this idea of meditation and spatial relationships has changed for me, and fairly recently.
So the
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. So the paintings were actually painted in 2024. So those are somewhat the last in this body of work here that I call my mystical ecospheres. The 3-dimension, I've always wanted to develop things in 3-dimension, and I forgot to mention also my background is interior architectural design, both residential and commercial, and so I did that for many years. And so talking about space, that's how I see space. But I've always, so what I wanted to do was create these abstracted forms that could be anything that is in nature. It could be underwater, it could be birds, it could be flora and fauna, and I wanted those all to be combined and somewhat and somehow relate to my paintings.
When you guys have a moment to walk around before we end this afternoon or later this evening, take a look at the piece over here that's Renee's in the back that we talked about before, and the one that's on the opposite wall. You'll see what she's talking about with the different perspectives. I think that really, because it is kind of an amorphous concept. It's kind of hard to explain or talk about unless you've spent time thinking about it and trying to, bring your own kind of spaciousness into creating work. And then also Heather's on the back side of this wall, I think is an important contribution to that conversation.
Yeah, and the gallery too, the middle gallery.
And Susan's
And then you
work.
can see Susan's work, right?
Yes.
As you go towards Susan's work, then you have a whole beautiful gallery there of her work.